It is finished. There is one very interesting thing among many believers of the Bible. It goes far beyond what is written. This is where the person reading a verse creates things that are not in him. This is due to several factors. Among them are listening to more sentimental and less analytical messages. In this case, we can highlight a verse that tells the moment when Jesus is about to die. And it says thus: "A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, 'It is finished.' With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit." From here we have the term "it is finished," but what does it mean? And it is here that things are imagined beyond what is written. First we have that the Greek term is teleō, and what is teleō? This term defines something that has been completed. For example, if I am building a house and I finish the door, I can say that the door is finished. The great mistake of several believers is to put two terms that do not exist in several verses. This term is the all or only. For in putting these terms you idealize something that does not exist in the verses, which would be the complete universality of something. For example, they idealize that the work of Christ has ended here where the verse says. But is this true? We can see in the verse. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Which shows that Jesus still needed to do something. For example, man continues in a situation of suffering. There are deaths, there are conversions, and the world is in the same form of suffering and pain as before Jesus. Thus the term consummate has nothing to do with the end of all works, but with what was happening. For example, Jesus was on the cross, and was getting to the point of death, so what was consummated was this phase of suffering in the land he was passing. For after 3 days Jesus resuscitates, and tells Mary not to touch him, for he has not yet returned to the Father. Thus, we can still see. Again Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." Now, if the work had been finished already on the cross, it would not have to blow and say "Receive the Holy Spirit." We can also observe other writings. For example, "My dear children, I write this to you so that you will not sin. But if anybody does sin, we have one who speaks to the Father in our defense, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. If we have a lawyer, then the whole work of Christ is not consummated, for he is advocating, he is doing a work, the work of advocacy, or intercession." We can still see another line. "He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." He who was seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." Then he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." We can clearly observe that there are various works to be done, among them the coming of Christ, the elimination of death, the elimination of suffering and various other things. What clearly invalidates the idea that the term is consummated, is involving everything that is consummated. And yes, that only the stage of Christ on earth as a suffering man has been consummated. That is the fact of the Greek term teleos, does not define that everything has come to its end, only the factor connected to the term end. And according to the text, the term consummated is involved in the prophecy of the coming of Christ as a suffering man.